Hello, everyone. Meteorologist Ted Keller. The Labor Day weekend is wrapping up. I hope you had a good one and a safe one. In certain sections of the country, is actually pretty cool for this time of year, while in others, it's still pretty hot. And that overall pattern looks as if it's going to last the rest of the week. Let's dive in. First of all, take a look at the visible satellite loop, showing a fairly quiet pattern. Rain, by the way, is just really not showing up in any great detail most of this week. It is in a few places, but nothing to the point of alert, really, until maybe some focus can be gotten out of some of these storms later in the week. But you can see on the satellite image here, it's pretty quiet across much of the lower 48. A few clouds drifting into parts of New England. This is the most interesting weather system here. Some thunderstorms in Texas and pretty quiet out west, widely scattered storms. Let's take a look at the upper levels. So this is the 500 millibar flow. It also includes little short waves. So this right here is a cutoff sort of low pressure system that is responsible for all the cool air. And then this right here, where you see these little yellow X's, these are little disturbances. These are vorticity areas. Which are actually plotted on this map, but it's the same color. You can't see them. They're dashed red. But anyway, this is what's causing a few showers and thunderstorms. Still a pretty good hot air ridge out here over the western U.S., but providing seasonal temperatures and a little hot in the interior parts of Washington and Oregon. Again, we'll dive into all that in a minute. Let's take a look at a radar loop for that one little short wave rotating around that larger one. And you can see some thunderstorms right around the Wichita area. A couple of warnings are in effect there around the northwest corner of Oklahoma. Largely speaking, though, severe weather has also gone dormant. So along with the real lack of focused heavy rain, there's a real lack of severe thunderstorms. In fact, there's only a marginal risk out in this area here for the rest of this afternoon, early this evening. And that's it. These rain showers, I can attest to the fact that they amount to almost nothing. A lot of that's not even reaching the ground. Here is the surface map. The original cool front that brought it all in is stationary, stalled over southern Florida. That continues to be a focus of some rain. And here's the other front that's coming across southern Canada right now. We'll detail that in a minute. Overall, while there is high pressure over New England, the pressure pattern is very weak. What do I mean by that? Well, these isobars, that's what these lines are, equal pressure, like the one running through Missouri here, are spaced very far apart, like here to here, here to here. There really is a lack of a significant area of high or low pressure anywhere on the map. The temperatures are nice, including very cool readings for this time of year across Michigan and Wisconsin. Temperatures in the mid to upper 70s, typically around there. Lower 70s through parts of New York State and into Pennsylvania. You can see it does heat up around Nashville, 90 degrees there, but even places like Daytona Beach, 82, just about on par with Chicago's 81. And then here's some of those interior temperatures, including Pocatello, Idaho at 99 degrees. I'm not sure what station that is there in the central part of Nevada, but that's 95. And also, yes, Phoenix is hot at 102, but that is not all that unusual for them. Let's take a look at what's going to be happening with the temperatures. We'll take a look at high temperatures first. And if you see cool colors, that means it's below normal. Hotter colors means above normal. So the high temperatures for Tuesday include 101 degrees in northern parts of Washington State, and also same reading up there, upstate Idaho. Meanwhile, the high will only be 77 in Wichita and 76 in Kansas City, and also upper 70s only through much of Virginia, the Carolinas, those areas as well. That's Tuesday. Now, I want to show you the forecast weather map for the next day, Wednesday. So this front, again, is stalled, same one. Here's a new one that's cutting through Michigan and Missouri. A little wave along it may cause a little more enhanced rainfall there, but the new Canadian high is right there on Wednesday. So now we're going to shift gears, look at the lows the very next morning. 40s, very common through Iowa. Through parts of the Dakotas, through Minnesota, and also Wisconsin. And you're seeing it, right? You're seeing some 30s. Duluth, 38 degrees. International Falls, 36. So there could be a little bit of frosty weather Thursday morning there. Meanwhile, the lows will only drop into the 60s, where the hot weather is focused in the northwest. We'll take a look then at the high temperatures for that very same day, Thursday, with highs only in the 50s through the Great Lakes, basically, maybe a few 60s around Detroit and Grand Rapids. But you can see how much of the country is carved out by below normal temperatures, including even parts of South Florida, that stall front having a lot to do with that, and even parts of the southwestern U.S., showing up below normal. Yes, 101 is considered about normal for the Phoenix area. And then finally on Saturday, after that front settles in, it only becomes more widespread, meaning the below normal temperatures indicated by that green-blue color. And then much of the southwest cools off. Still a very stubborn pocket of hot air there in Washington, northern Idaho, and Montana. And if we go much further ahead, this is the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook for Sunday through Thursday. It does show still a high confidence of below normal temperatures from the Great Lakes into New England. South Florida, on average, will be a little hot, as will parts of Montana and the Pacific Northwest. And I did want to show you that there are heat advisories in effect for the interior valley of California, for much of western and central Washington, northern Idaho, an extreme heat warning for parts of Oregon and Washington as well. And as far as the September temperature outlook is concerned, so going ahead, this is September 1st, so the official Climate Prediction Center forecast is pretty high confidence of above normal temperature in New England and also through the Four Corners area, with pretty seasonal through the nation's midsection. So that particular orange shading there is a low confidence that is going to be true. The darker this is, the higher confidence level exists for hotter than normal temperatures. Well, the tropical forecast for the Atlantic does have a 40 to 60% chance of tropical storm formation. That's this shading right here for this storm that's coming off from just south of the Azores and moving almost due westward across the Atlantic. But even over the next 7 days, if we assume it's here, it's still another couple of days from any significant land masses at all, Leeward Islands. Let's take a look at the European model. It's actually putting about a 40 to 50% chance of a tropical storm right at the end of that 7-day zone. So there's a high confidence that something is going to form there. The big question this time of year is what happens after here? Does this thing keep barreling west-northwest into the Gulf? Or do they start to turn out to sea, or some hybrid combination of the two? Well, let's take a look at, even though it's way out, it's 7 days in the future. This is the 500 millibar flow, different model. This is the GFS model, not the European model. It does show at the 500 millibar level some hints of this storm. And what happens after that? Well, if this high pressure ridge holds right here, then this thing would naturally want to be steered in this direction. But there is a small trough there. There's a developing trough over the central United States. So there's still a lot of question marks, really, as to what is going to happen to this storm afterwards. I want to take a look at the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season so far. There have been 6 named storms, 1 hurricane, and that hurricane has been a major hurricane. That was Aaron. That was this long track one right here. So it obtained major hurricane status right there where that purple shading is. Thankfully started curving back out to sea. But so far, 6 named storms. So let's take a look at the forecast by NOAA. For this year, it is calling for 13 to 18 named storms, 5 to 9 hurricanes, and 2 to 5 majors. So we're almost getting into the 2 to 5 range for the major. The season probability is for about a 50-50 chance of it being above normal. So let's go through the names too. So Gabrielle would be the next name on the list. And it looks like that storm I just showed you out in the central Atlantic is the only contender, I think, for that. And then take a look at a couple more things too, just so you know. We haven't reached the peak typically of Atlantic hurricane season. In September, this is where the highest probability, this is where storms have actually occurred. If you look at the record, number of named storms per 100 years right here, so that's greater than 70 in that dark red. Notice there's a patch in the Gulf, that's the next color down, and much of the Atlantic is covered in that 50 to 60, almost 70%, I should say, range. And one final tropical tidbit here is that the peak of season is typically right here, and that falls right around September 10th or so. It drops off pretty rapidly, but we still get a lot of storms in September and even early October. As I mentioned earlier, there aren't a lot of heavy rain hazards. In fact, we would have to go to the 4th. So today is 1st. So that's Thursday right there. Maybe a little bit of upstate New York. Might get a little patch of some heavy rain hazard. The other ones are the 7th through the 8th. 2 of those, coastal areas of Texas and also Oklahoma. And that's it. There isn't a whole lot going on. That's good news, I guess. It is dry across sections of the country, and it's not going to get much better in those areas. In fact, we were very dry here in Springfield for the month of August. It looks like sweeping rains behind several cool fronts will be common across Wisconsin, Michigan, into the northeast. Remember on the 4th, that was that area right there. And again, this is the next 5 days. Southern Florida, we'll zoom in on that in a second. And maybe that wave along that front might produce some showers and storms, including what's happening there now from western Missouri back into southern Kansas. But look at how much dry it is in the west, and in fact, on most of this map. Let's zoom in on Florida real quick, though, where, again, these are the next 5 days. West Palm Beach, just over 3 inches of rain. Miami, 3.3 inches of rain. Again, this is over the next 5 days. And it was, it's all very much connected to that stalled out front down there. And the 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook, this begins Sunday, the one coming up, through Thursday. A little bit of a chance of above normal precip along the coastal areas of Carolinas, Georgia, all of Florida, pretty much except for the Panhandle. But in an interesting shift, it starts to get wet in the Pacific Northwest. So that signals an end to the real hot weather up there, as those two do not go hand in hand. And we'll look at the last thing we'll look at is the September forecast. Only now we're looking at precipitation. And it looks like, yes, it looks like a corner of the Pacific Northwest. We'll start to see slightly above normal conditions. Pretty high confidence it's going to be dry as a bone in Utah, Four Corners area, parts of Wyoming, and maybe a little bit of wetness. Low confidence, really, but enough to talk about from Florida through that same coastal area of Georgia and the Carolinas. Thanks for watching this edition of Weather to Watch. It comes out every other day, or as the weather necessitates. Please remember to share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel, or at the very least, like what you just watched. Thanks.